There's this obscure government program called the 287G program. At least it used to be obscure. Anyway, it's become a lot more common over the past couple of years. It's named after a federal law, Section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act. The program allows ICE to partner with local law enforcement to deputize your neighborhood police officers as immigration agents in exchange for funding. ICE calls the program, quote, a force multiplier. It's been around for a while, don't get me wrong, but the program's reach has exploded since Donald Trump returned to the White House. When Joe Biden left office in January of 2025, the federal government had 135 agreements under the 287G program across the country. Under the second Trump administration, there are now 2,179 of these agreements in place across 39 states and 2 U.S. territories. It's become a critical component of Trump's immigration crackdown, allowing ICE's reach to expand widely and rapidly. But as ICE's tactics have become more controversial and drawn greater scrutiny, Democratic lawmakers have been pushing back. In Texas, which has a whopping 474 of these 287G agreements in place, Democrats are turning up the pressure on cities to end their contracts with ICE. That push is being led by Congressman Joaquin Castro of San Antonio, Texas. In a letter sent to several local mayors today, he and other officials warned, quote, your police department's partnership with ICE will not only increase the risk of constitutional rights violations against your constituents, but will damage public trust, strain your local law enforcement's resources and budget, and diminish economic activity in your city and region. Joining me now to discuss is Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro of Texas. Congressman, this is one of the consequences of Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, which supercharged ICE with $75 billion in additional funding. That's how they've been able to expand these 287G programs, as you know. Tell us a little more about why you think local law enforcement should abandon these agreements, turn down the money that they would get from the program. I mean, after all, police departments virtually nationwide are facing staffing shortages and recruitment challenges every day. So why shouldn't they accept this cash infusion?
Well, no, you're exactly right. And that's been a big part of the reason why Texas law enforcement agencies have entered into these agreements, because a lot of them are facing budget deficits and they're balancing their budgets, or at least trying to, by entering into agreements with ICE in this task force model, where they essentially become, their police officers essentially become ICE officers. They're also facing a lot of pressure from Governor Greg Abbott, who has forced the Department of Public Safety and many local law enforcement to essentially become ICE agents. And so you ask the question, well, why would I be against it? And the county commissioners and the state legislators who signed this letter as well, because it's dangerous for our constituents and it's dangerous for the residents of those cities. I say that because we've seen the brutality of ICE out on the streets. We've seen multiple U.S. citizens who have been killed. We've seen the abuse. We've seen an agency that's gone rogue, wearing masks, refusing to identify themselves, refusing to provide warrants or show warrants, drawing guns, including on U.S. citizens. And so we did this because we received a lot of outreach from constituents who are deeply concerned with the decisions that have been made by the mayors and the city councils in these cities.
What effect do you think it has on the willingness of the local public to report crimes if they're fearful about immigration status of themselves or family members being used against them?
It basically shuts a lot of people off from reporting because they may be undocumented themselves, or they may be a legal permanent resident, or be here on an asylum case where they actually were allowed into the country legally, but they've seen a lot of people in the same position get detained unlawfully by the Trump administration. So they're scared to report crime. But it also has this pernicious effect of taking away the time of local police officers to deal with other things, to deal with home invasions, investigations of home invasions or thefts, burglaries, other crimes, sexual assaults. And so my longer term fear is that all of this money that is being thrown at small cities, these are all small cities ranging from 1,000 people to maybe 10,000 people, that they're going to start spending a lot more time being ICE officers and less time actually investigating things like murder, sexual assault, and burglary.
Speaking of where money is going, the Associated Press is reporting that ICE is planning to spend $20 million to buy gloves that can deliver painful electric shocks in order to gain compliance from individual subjects. What do you see as the risks here?
A lot. Well, first, we've seen the brutality out on the streets. We know that a lot of these ICE officers are untrained or not fully trained. So you have a lot of people out there who are not fully trained. They're going into situations that are very emotional. I can't tell you how many videos all of us have seen where there's a young girl or a young boy who is clinging on to the leg of their mom or their dad as they're being separated at a school or at a business or in a parking lot. So I asked the question, are ICE officers going to use those electric gloves on the little kids to separate them from the parents? Are they going to use them on these parents that are sobbing because they're having to leave their kids behind? Are they going to use those gloves to electrify them, to electrocute them? And my answer at this point with a lot of these guys out there on the street is probably yes, because they're untrained. Some of them are outright cruel and often violating the law.
Yeah, I don't know how you could look at the pattern of behavior that we've seen to date and think that giving these officers more potential ways to use force, even if it's non-lethal force, would be helpful. But on another note, you have made multiple visits to Dilley Detention Center. You were there as recently as just a couple of weeks ago, I believe. Tell us about the conditions inside of those centers, and have things improved at all since your first visit?
Yeah, Dilley, under this Secretary of Homeland Security, has become more secretive and less transparent. And I was actually hopeful because when I went in January, there were over 1,000 people there in detention. And that number went down to about 300 over the months, but it's back up over 500. And the last count that I got of children was about 120 children who were in detention. And the trauma that is being inflicted on these kids is just incredible. The youngest kid there, the last time I was there in the last few weeks, was 2 months old again. These very young kids who are imprisoned. Every day my office is getting outreach from families who have loved ones that are there. There's this case of a little girl who today, I believe, celebrated her 7th birthday inside that trailer prison, inside the Dilley trailer prison. And her mom has had to tell her, or convince the little girl that she's at a kind of summer camp. And that's the experience that they're going through, this summer camp. And so this is long-lasting trauma. And it's the only place in America where I can think of where we have allowed for the commodification of child imprisonment, where investors literally are making money the more children that are put into the Dilley Detention Center.